Welcome back to another reading and correcting with me, Kindar, the Tiger Writes, and Ty, the Tiger Supervisor. These are where I read a chapter from one of my stories and correct it as I go. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch and YouTube. And if you are looking to support me, that is on my Patreon. Today, we are doing chapter 67 of Stepping Wild. All right, the gunmaster yelled as she brought up her horse to a stop. Pass the word, we're stopping here. Tibbs got. Tibbs got? Tibbs brought. Tibbs brought his to a stop and disembarked, wincing as he grabbed the saddle's horn to lower himself. After weeks with the constant burn over his hand, the pain tended to fall out to the point he forgot until an action with that hand reminded him. He didn't want to forget about it, shouldn't be able to forget about it. The pain should be constant and disabling, but he needed to be an effective guard to remain with the caravan, and that meant he needed to wield his sword or carry items as needed to make camp or help one of the merchant. The bar, Kristin, Joanne, Standla, and Zax are on tent duty. Maltorium, Ballister, and Bront latrine. He tuned her out and joined the others at the wagon carrying the guard's supplies. Pole and tarp in hands, in arms, he moved away and proceeded to set them up. The others talked, plural. The others talked and laughed while working, but Tibbs didn't join in. He focused on the work and the pain. On hiding, he felt it. When Zax helped him, he tried to engage Tibbs in conversation, but quickly gave up. Tibbs took the farthest stint from his own. The caravan leader required the guards ate together, and Tibbs had no choice to participate then, but he spoke as little as possible, only enough to come across as the silent type instead of someone who wanted nothing to do with any of them. More than once, he considered he should have traveled alone. He wasn't fit or safe company, but he wasn't so far gone not to realize the danger of aloneness in his current state. So this was his compromise, among others, but not. Eating done, he sat against a tree at the edge of the camp and pushed fire through his hand, entering as much of the pain as he could, burning himself without leaving evidence for anyone to smell. Air was the only other essence he allowed himself, and only to keep anyone from smelling burned flesh. Fire he only used on himself. What's wrong with it? The large man asked, dropping to the ground a few paces away from Tibbs. He drained a wooden tankard and placed it next to him. The mace was, as always, attached to his belt. The layer of fat covered muscles that let him cave in bandits' head when they were stupid enough to attack them. With what? He kept the smell from reaching the man while absorbing the fire essence. The man nodded to Tibbs's right hand. Both were gloved to avoid drawing attention to it. Noticed you favoring it a few times. You held your own in the fight, so I didn't bring it up with Alicia. But I've been wondering, left over from a fight? No. His anger at never being able to endure as much of the pain as he should gave the word an edge. You know, we have a healer traveling with us, right? I'm sure he'd be happy to look. Yeah. To look at it. In exchange for the protection we provide. I'm fine, he stated. The man in question was more alchemist than healer. Tibbs' cursed curiosity had drawn him to the essence in that wagon's crate and caught the man working. He'd watch as the man placed containers over containers? Vials. Vial is a better word here. Vials over flames and added a liquid equal part water and other elements. One of the mixture reminded him of alcohol. The heat of the fire, the man said after glancing in Tibbs' direction, changes the elixir into something that pulls the essence out of the items I put in it. There had been the tone of a scholar imparting knowledge, and Tibbs had walked away. He wasn't interested in what the man was doing. He didn't want to know anything about the elements anymore. He was done with them. You shouldn't be in pain if you don't have to, the guard said. They don't want us. They don't want that for us. They who? He asked, barely keeping from making it a demand. The elements. They want us to be happy. He motioned around. They made all this for us to enjoy. We should. Tips snorted. The elements wanted nothing from them, felt nothing. Maybe curiosity was something they felt toward people. Happiness? He doubted the elements understood what that was, or cared if people were happy, if they did. You think you deserve it? He glared at the man, but kept his tone neutral. How about you leave me in peace? With a shrug, the guard stood, just being friendly. He waited until the man was paces away. No one should suffer my friendship. He didn't deserve them, not when all he brought those around him was suffering. Alone, he pulled fire out again. The only person who deserved to suffer was him. Listen up, the guardmaster yelled once the caravan stopped. The scout came back with news of a bandit camp half a day's ride ahead. I want volunteers to deal with them. Those of you here so you can bash in heads, now's the time to step forward. He walked away. She'd have enough volunteer. Dealing with the bandit camp would take most of the day, so he pulled tarps and poles and set about making camp. The remnant of the bandit camp came into view. It was closer to the road than Tibbs had expected. He sensed where they were, but hadn't paid attention to the gap among the grass that marked the road. It wound and twisted. The fighting had been hard. Not only those who returned fighting had been hard. Not only from what those who returned said, but also because only half of them returned. He was surprised at how few bandits' bodies how few bandit bodies there were. He was surprised at how few bandit bodies there were, considering the damage they inflicted. Stories of their viciousness and strength hadn't given the proper sense of them, he realized. There had been whispers of magic and them being dungeon-made people, but Tibbs had ignored those. I don't need that. Tibbs ignored. No, it's the had, because that's in relation to him not realizing how few people were there. Both ideas were laughable. He'd have sensed if one of them had an element, it would have stood out among the others. Not that he would have done anything about it. As for dungeon-made monsters, not people. The alchemists, as well as the family of herbalists, helped with healing those who had returned. The guard with the mace nodded to them significantly when he caught Tibbs' attention. He walked away. Tibbs parried the hammer, and the impact resounded through the sword and into his hand, causing it to spasm. Before he could worry about being weaponless, the woman raised the large hammer over her head with a scream. He slammed his already injured shoulder into her chest, staggering her back and off balance. He stepped out of the way of the other bandits' punch, and she did the same with his return swing. As with the other women in this bandit camp, she wore fur, which made her look more like an animal than a person. He could already hear the stories of dungeon people that would be told after this. She came at him, fists raised. He blocked with his arm, and the hit had enough strength. He thought his shoulder had been wrenched out. The other was already broken. He wouldn't survive losing the use of both arm, unless he used essence. He ground his teeth against the pain of his wild swing. She stepped back in surprise. He was never using essence again. And as painful as his arm was, it worked. She attacked with quick jab that staggered him when they connected. Then he was on his back, head spinning from a punch he didn't see coming. He deserved the pain, he told himself as she raised a foot over his head. The mace crushed the side of her head. She staggered to the side before falling. You okay? The guard asked, hand on knees, panting. He didn't respond. He forced himself to his feet, retrieved his sword, and rejoined the fight. Until it was done, he'd protect the merchants and their families the best he could. I'm fine, he told the approaching alchemist. I am afraid that even I can see that is not the case. Your friend asked that I see to you now that the others have been tended to. I don't have a... He pushed through the pain to look around the thin man. The mace-wielding guard was looking back at him with a raised eyebrow. Abyss, what was his problem? The alchemist knelt next to Tib and produced a small bottle from his satchel. As with everything in it, the bottle contained concentrated essence. Water, fever, fire, light, corruption, and many more he couldn't identify. This will help with the pain. I'm fine with it. The man studied him. You understand that what I do is not magic. I will help your body heal, but you will feel it all. Tibbs glared. I said I'm fine with it. If I thought I'd do any good, I'd tell you to throw yourself in the abyss. But then he's going to tell the guardmaster, and I'm going to have to deal with them and you. Just get on with it. With a shrug, the man put the bottle away. He took cloth and different bottles out. Do you need help remove your armor and shirt? This needs to be applied on your skin. It must soak. I don't care. Tibbs gritted his teeth to keep the pain from escaping as he leaned forward and undid the buckles with his working hand. He suffered through removing it and his undershirt, then fell back against the tree, panting hard. The man watched him through the process without speaking. Then he poured drops from various bottles on a clean cloth, purity, light, fever, air, water. You did not fail them, he said, applying the cloth over the broken shoulder. What are you talking about? He tried to ignore what was happening, the way the essence mixed over his skin, soaked through. This felt different from any of the essence work he'd witnessed before. Those the bandits killed are not on you. You do not have to punish yourself. I am certain you have fought as best as you know how. Everyone has commented on their unusual strength, and there are already fewer of you after the previous attacks. You think that? The pain was so sudden he couldn't stop the scream. It was worse than when he'd healed himself with fever. This felt like his shoulder was being ground to powder, not being healed. Fever was his element. How could he feel this pain? One of the other elements? Then it was gone and he panted. He forced himself to focus on what had been left behind, the not rightness of his essence through his shoulder. Do not move your arm, the alchemist warned. It takes time for the body to understand the healing has taken place. It does not enjoy being forced to do something it believes it cannot do. He prepared another cloth, but Tibbs was focused on his essence. The break that had remained in it was changing, mending, to match the now healed bone. The other applications were similar, but knowing what to expect, were less intense. Tibbs told him where he was injured. The alchemist applied a liquid essence-soaked cloth, and it seeped in. Bones heal, and after, his essence changed to reflect what had happened. All that was left was closer to bruising than breaking anything. He moved a hand when the man reached for it. It's fine. Your friend said, he's not my friend, just some guard who can't mind his own business. If you allow me to see, I can make something that will help. I didn't get this from defending you, so it's not your responsibility. My help is not limited to... I said no. The man nodded and packed the bottles and cloth away. He stood, then hesitated. Holding on to pain does not help anyone. Whatever the reason for you to hold on to this is, it is wrong. You are a good person and you know nothing about me. He'd intended to snarl, but he was too tired. The alchemist exchanged words with the mace-wielding guard, ending with a shrug. Fortunately for him, the guard headed away. It might have broken his promise and used air to send him off if he'd approached. The rain that had made the last week miserable suddenly ended, and the sky turned so blue, Tibs couldn't understand how it was possible. The smile as the sun warmed him caught him by surprise. He didn't know how, but it felt like the clouds had taken some of the darkness in him with them. He chuckled. Then he forced himself to remember what he'd done so he wouldn't feel too happy. He didn't want to return to being miserable, but he also couldn't allow himself to forget how, again, his anger had destroyed more than had deserved. Too many of the city folks had died when only those thugs had deserved it. No, only the master had deserved it. He kept to himself for the rest of the trip, and no one noticed the change, except for the mace-wielding guard. He gave Tibs a satisfied nod, then went on about his duties. Tibs contemplated his hand. He could heal it himself, an itching of purity, and he'd be done. He looked over the wagons, but he was curious how the alchemist would go about doing it. And he needed to tell him something. "You're wrong," he said as he stepped up to the man's wagon. He raised his hand. "I deserve this. I let my anger take control, and people who had no business paying for it did. But you're right. I can't hold on to the pain and just be angry at myself for what I did. If your offers still stand, I'd like you to heal it." "Of course." He pulled a crate and motioned for Tibs to sit. "Show me." Removing the glove hurt. Flesh came off with it, and the alchemist gasped. "I do not know if I can entirely heal damage so severe. My elixirs will do nothing for the skin." "Do what you can. I'll endure the rest." And maybe scars would serve as a reminder to not let his anger rage again. And this concludes chapter 67 of Stepping Wild. If you are enjoying this, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next chapter will be up, subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to read this story, it is available for free on Royal Road. If you want to support me and read ahead of that, it is on Ream Story, where we are, I think, 20 chapters ahead. And if you are looking to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch and YouTube. Links are in the notes, and with that, I shall wish you a good day.